Right. So regarding the first question, I mean, everyone managed to get the right answer. We were just discussing about the semantics. That probably user is a good option to name or to label the argument. Name is a bit confusing because it doesn't give you the feeling this is an object. And even if it's an object, as soon as we got any other property like age, email, whatever, then it wouldn't make that sense. Then names is confusing as well because it's plural. If you have an argument in plural, it looks like we're talking about arrays. And then OB is even more confusing because even though it's technically speaking correct, it's an object, so that's obvious. But we should be a bit more human-driven, right? We should explain what type of object we are dealing with. Question number 2, make even. So we receive a number 2, and we expected to get the even, right? Equivalent. So if the number is even, we are expected to leave it as it is. But if it's odd, we're expected to multiply it by 2, if I'm correct. Yes, it looks like. So, yeah, strategies are quite similar already. Yeah, we already got the is-even function, so we just had to invoke it, right? There are just subtle differences, very, very small differences. But I discussed about that with Tom this morning. So look, so what the two friends propose, and you tell me which one do you prefer and why. They are very similar, right? Ignoring indentation, which in case of Victor, you know, so this should be indented to the right. We should try to tidy up the exercise, everything, even though it's correct, right? But this seems a bit messy, and if the code is not correctly indented, if there is something wrong, it may be harder to inspect where the issue is, right? So, look at the two approaches. So, Tom, he checked if the number is even, and then he negated it, right? So he's trying to check if the number is odd, essentially. And Victor, he did the same, but instead of using the exclamation mark, he just compared against false. Do you have any particular reference regarding these two styles?
Yeah.
You prefer which one?
The first one.
Tom's. It's because he's here.
Because I use it as well.
Yeah.
It's thinner, shorter.
Yeah, definitely. This one is shorter. I can understand that at the beginning, if you are not fully confident, the longest version is more explicit, right? It's a bit longer, but you are describing your feelings in a more explicit way, right? But in the long term, I promise that in the long term, this is what you will use, right? Because you are fully familiar with the question marks, sorry, the exclamation mark. Yes, both will be equally readable, right? So there will be no advantages of using the right-hand side. Anything else in regards to the second question? No? Easy, right?
Victor's written else.
Sorry?
Victor's written an else.
Yes, that's true. So what Tom is pointing that Victor, he said, if the number is even, return the double, right? But else, return the same number. I think he's, as Tom suggested, is the only one using else. That's a good point. So to me, that's a good strategy, because in that particular case, what everyone else did is if whatever, return something. And then always return something else. Obviously, if the number is even, the highlighted text will never be executed, right? Because we are returning. However, I find Victor's approach particularly interesting because we clearly see that we either want something or something else. Semantics. Okay? Cool. Thank you, Tom. Question number 3. In here, we got a couple of arguments. We got a couple of arguments. and we have to build a welcome message. That's pretty simple. Again, one of the challenges here is to write a appropriate set of arguments. So most of you have used first name, last name, first name, last name, but then if we look at the exotic proposals, Victor call it XY, right? So you can see Victor's style, right? I mean, again, technically speaking, it's fully correct. He did the same thing on the first example. You remember the first exercise, right?
He's going for speed, so I can't go with the right place.
Yeah, but if you have to understand, hello, XY, right? What's XY? It could be person one, person two, right?
Yeah, no, I
Do you know?
agree, it's not the best approach.
Right? So semantics.
Just defending him as he's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Also, Marta says first and second. First and second what? It's like first on the
I
comp.
put more effort than Victor.
Okay, no, definitely. You wrote a bit more than him. Yes. Yeah. Cool. I don't remember. Did you got the backticks as part of the default code, or did you put
I
them?
had to change it to back.
You had to. Oh, right, because you got single quotes. You had to change them. Okay, cool. Okay, that's good because everyone got how to use the backticks, right? So again, my only concern here is about semantics, about readability of the code. Apart from that, perfect. Nothing to complain. Anything you want to discuss about this question? No? Chandon? No. Okay, cool. Cool. Question number 4. So we got a object, and that's pretty much the same thing, right? So the object may have a first name and a last name, or just a first name. So the deal here is, if we have the last name, then we have to display welcome Mr. Last name. If not, we just said welcome first name, right? This is typical. If you are building a platform like Codery or any other, that users, they sign up, usually they have first name, last name, but sometimes they, for example, they don't set any last name, right? So it's weird. That you may have spotted that sometimes you sign up somewhere and say, welcome undefined. Welcome undefined. What kind of welcome message is that, right? It's because we need to deal with the objects a bit. So, okay, let's see what you propose. So Tom said, okay, if I got user the last name, then welcome Mr. blah, blah, blah. Else, welcome first name. That's fine. Victor, instead of using the ternary operator, he's used an if else, right? Which is equally valid, of course. Alex, similar to Victor, however, she used the backticks, which is very interesting, right? I recommend you to use backticks because even though for this particular example, there isn't any big difference, to be honest, as soon as you have to deal with more complex sentences, the backticks definitely help, right? Marta, pretty much the same as Tom, ternary operator, right? Using backticks as well. And G is same as Victor, right? So I have to say that my favorite approach here is the one that was suggested by Marta. Why? Because first of all, it's using backticks, same as Alex, but then the solution looks simpler, right? Ternary operator. You see? Question mark, if the condition is true, it's truthy, then return that. Else, return that, right? I mean, everything is okay, don't get me wrong, right? Every solution is absolutely fine. I just, from a personal point of view, I like what Marta did on top of anyone else. Just one subtle detail. Even though I like her solution, I had to say that she got a penalty in this question. Do you know why Marta got a penalty? Small penalty here.
One line.
It's not because it's one line. It's because it's a very long line, right? So you remember elegance, that column that no one cares today, right? So elegance talks about how readable your code is. We should try to avoid having very long lines. To me, this line is very long, right? It's much longer than, for example, the one that G wrote it, or the one that Victor, even Alex, right? So these ones are more readable in terms of average length of the line, right? But this one is very, very long, right? So do you know how to split that into several lines? Correct. We can try that actually. Let me show you very quickly, So let's create a snippet. So if we got a function, let me show you the function. So function, again, I'm playing with the same example all the time, don't ask me why. So you get a score, right? So what you proposed was return score about 50. Yes, you are. Else no, keep trying, right? Something like that. So the way to split a ternary operator is as simple as doing this. See? In the first line, the condition, and then on the next line, what happened if the condition is met, and on the last line, what happened if the condition is not met. Make sense? Any question? No? Cool. So let's go back to the challenge. Question number 5. So what are we expecting to do here? Can anyone refresh me what the question was?
Yeah, you mixed up the quotes. So one was a single quote, one was a double. And you
Correct,
mixed it.
correct. So in that particular case, so the code was partially written, right? But we had a mess of single quotes, double quotes, backticks, weird characters, right? So it was about simplifying it.
This one has
Two
two function words.
functions? What do you mean?
Function, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. That was the killing thing, right? On top of the problem with the quotes, function was written twice. So this was about paying attention to details, right?
I never read the first line.
You see? But yep. Right. So again, I particularly like using backticks. So I will buy Victor's solution and Marta's as well. Regarding Tom, Alex, and G, pretty much the same thing. Yes, pretty much the same thing. Right. Cool. Easy, right? It was good. Anything else in regards to the beginner? Is there any particular thing that you want to discuss about any algorithm, any if else, any string, literal, anything you want to talk about? No? Okay, so let's leave it here. I'll upload the video to YouTube soon in case anyone wants to catch up and check all what we've been discussing so far.